Okay, so have you heard about this divorce?
Which one?
The Dubai Sheikh and...
Oh, yeah, with the $1 billion settlement.
That's the one. $1 billion. It's crazy. A Dubai Sheikh, a runaway princess.
Sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's real life. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and Princess Haya bin Al Hussein.
I vaguely remember hearing about it. What's the deep dive on this one?
Well, their marriage seemed like, a fairy tale at first, but then things took a really dark turn.
What happened?
It's a long story, but we'll get to all of it. We're going to untangle this whole case, figure out who these people are, and, well, it has some big implications for a lot of things.
Like what?
International relations, women's rights, big stuff. You ready to dive in?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2004. Princess Haya, she's like this glamorous, Oxford-educated woman, an Olympic equestrian, right?
Oh, impressive.
She marries Sheikh Mohammed, who's turning Dubai into, Dubai.
Yeah, a global powerhouse.
Exactly. And at the time, it seemed like this really progressive, modern marriage.
Yeah, I remember that. A sign of things to come, people said.
Right. And their lifestyle was, lavish doesn't even begin to describe it.
I bet. Private jets.
Oh, yeah. Private Boeing 747s, a super yacht worth like $500 million, estates all over Britain. But here's the thing about Haya. She wasn't your typical royal.
What do you mean?
Well, she once said in an interview that she loves Jilly Cooper novels and Guns N' Roses. Imagine that.
Uh-huh. That's not what you usually associate with royalty.
Right. Driving around Suffolk in jeans, making spaghetti bolognese. Not exactly the image of a sheltered princess, is it?
It's kind of brilliant, though, right?
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. By presenting herself as this modern, relatable figure, she helped make Dubai's ruling family seem more palatable to the West.
Good PR move.
Exactly.
But those glimpses of normalcy make what happened later even more shocking.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What happened?
So we have to talk about Princess Latifa. She's Sheikh Mohammed's daughter, but from another wife.
Okay.
And she made not one, but 2 attempts to escape Dubai.
Escape? Why?
She claimed she was being mistreated, oppressed, essentially a prisoner in her own home.
Whoa.
Yeah. Before her second attempt, she even recorded this video. It's chilling. She talks about how restricted her life was, how women in Dubai, even royal women, are seen as disposable.
Wow. That video must have caused quite a stir.
It did. It completely blew the lid off this carefully crafted image of Dubai and, the supposed freedoms that women have there.
So what happened to her? Did she escape?
That's the thing. In 2018, during her escape, her yacht was intercepted.
No way.
Yeah. She was forcibly returned to Dubai.
That's terrifying.
To this day, her whereabouts are a mystery. There have been a few appearances, but under very controlled circumstances. It raises all sorts of questions about human rights in Dubai and about how far Sheikh Mohammed would go to maintain control.
I can see why this is a big deal.
And, Latifa's case isn't unique.
Really?
Yeah. Back in 2000, her older sister, Shamsa, also tried to flee. She was allegedly abducted in the UK and flown back to Dubai against her will.
So there's a pattern of this.
It seems that way. And that brings us to Haya's escape in 2019. Nobody saw that coming.
So she got out.
How? She fled Dubai with her 2 children, went to the UK, sought refuge there, said she feared for her own safety. It's wild to think about, right? The life she was leaving behind.
It's mind-boggling. What did Sheikh Mohammed do?
Oh, he fought back.
Is it
big time? The court proceedings in London were, let's just say the allegations were explosive.
Like what?
Haya's legal team accused him of some pretty intense stuff, a whole campaign of intimidation against her.
Intimidation, that's a strong word.
Not just arguments or anything. They accused him of trying to buy the property right next to hers in England for surveillance.
Oh, wow.
And they said he used spyware to hack her phone.
Seriously?
And not just her phone, but her entire legal team's phones as well. And then there were the threats.
Threats? What kind of threats?
What direct threats against her life? It's like something out of a spy movie. Claims of a loaded gun left on her pillow, threats of being abducted and taken to a desert prison.
It's hard to believe this is all happening in the 21st century.
I know, right? And here's the thing that's even crazier.
What's that?
The British judge, after hearing all the evidence, actually concluded that Sheikh Mohammed did orchestrate the abduction of his daughters and that he posed a direct threat to Haya and her children.
Whoa, that's huge. So it's not just accusations, it's a legal finding.
Exactly. And from a highly respected court, this wasn't just gossip. And it completely throws into question everything we thought we knew about Dubai and its leadership.
Yeah, that's not good for Dubai's image at all. What about the UK government? They're close to Dubai, right?
Super close. And this whole thing put them in a really awkward position. But we'll get to that later. First, we have to talk about the settlement. Get this. Haya was awarded £550 million.
How much is that in dollars?
Over $1 billion. It's one of the biggest divorce settlements in history.
$1 billion. Wow. Was it just a lump sum payment?
Nope, it was way more complicated than that. Because remember, the judge believed Haya and her children were still in danger. So the settlement included money for security, like round-the-clock security, armored vehicles, a whole team dedicated to protecting them.
Man, that's intense.
It is. And get this, they even factored in the cost of caring for their ponies and pets.
Wait, really? Their pet?
Yeah. It sounds extravagant, but the judge wanted to make sure the kids could maintain some semblance of normalcy in their lives. Which, good for them.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But even with $1 billion, can she really ever feel safe?
That's a good question. And there are doubts about whether she'll actually get all of that money. A lot of Sheikh Mohammed's wealth is held offshore. It might be really hard to enforce the court order and actually get him to pay up.
Oh, so it's not over yet.
Oh no, not by a long shot.
Yeah.
There's another layer to this whole thing that makes it even crazier. Remember we were talking about how Haya's escape seemed to come out of nowhere?
Yeah, it was a shock.
Well, it turns out there might have been a reason for that. It was revealed during the court case that Haya had an affair.
An affair? With who?
Her British bodyguard.
Oh, okay, that changes things.
Right. And apparently she was being blackmailed about it. So her decision to flee might not have just been about her own safety, but also about protecting her children and avoiding the fallout from this whole affair. Can you imagine the pressure she must have been under?
It's like something out of a soap opera.
Seriously. This whole situation is just insane. International intrigue, $1 billion settlement, alleged abductions, and now an affair and blackmail. It's like a real-life thriller. And it gives us this crazy glimpse into the world of a powerful ruling family, the lengths they'll go to, the price people pay.
And the UK is right in the middle of it all.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Remember how I said this whole thing was embarrassing for the British royal family?
Yeah.
Well, they're super close with both Sheikh Mohammed and Princess Haya. The Queen and other royals have been photographed with him tons of times. They share a love of horse racing.
So what are they supposed to do now?
That's the question. This whole scandal has forced them to reevaluate their relationship with him. It's created this huge rift.
So this case isn't just about a messy divorce. It's about international relations and diplomacy
And power.
Yeah.
And control. And who gets to tell the story? This case has left more questions than answers.
Yeah, like, what happens to Haya and her children? What about Princess Latifah? Will she ever be free?
We don't know. But it's a story that's still unfolding.
And one that we need to keep paying attention to.
Absolutely. But I think we need to pause here for now. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have. But we're just getting started. There's so much more to this story. It really makes you think, about Dubai. Like everything we think we know about it.
It's like this whole carefully crafted image is starting to crumble.
Exactly. And it puts countries like the UK in a really tough spot. They have these close ties with Dubai. But how can they maintain those relationships while condemning these actions?
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. Economic interests versus human rights.
Not an easy choice to make. And then there's the question of Dubai's image. They've spent years building this reputation as a modern, tolerant place.
Like a global hub, right? For tourism, for business.
Yeah, attracting people from all over the world. But these allegations, the abductions, the intimidation, the restrictions on women, it paints a very different picture.
Totally. It's like, I've been to Dubai. It's dazzling. Skyscrapers, luxury. Everyone seems to be living a high life.
But this case suggests there's a darker side. A side we don't usually see.
Right. And it's not just about image. These revelations have real consequences for Dubai's relationships with other countries, for its economy.
Absolutely. I mean, there are already calls for investigations, for sanctions.
It's a wake-up call to the international community. We can't just ignore human rights abuses because it's convenient.
Definitely not. We have to hold governments accountable, even if they're rich and powerful.
And speaking of powerful, you know that judge's assessment of Sheikh Mohammed?
Oh yeah, it was pretty scathing.
It was. He called his conduct coercive and controlling, not words you usually hear about a head of state.
It's a landmark ruling. To publicly condemn a leader like that, someone as powerful as Sheikh Mohammed, it's almost unheard of.
It challenges his authority. And it sets a precedent for holding other leaders accountable, no matter how rich or influential they are.
And don't forget, this ruling came from a British court.
Right. A well-respected legal system. It adds a lot of weight to the accusations.
It also shows the independence of the UK judiciary. They weren't swayed by political pressure. They made a ruling based on the evidence.
Yeah, it sends a powerful message. It also raises some interesting questions about diplomatic immunity.
You mean, if a head of state is accused of something serious, can they hide behind that immunity?
Exactly. Should they be held to a different standard?
It's a debate that needs to happen.
And this case could really change how those issues are handled in the future.
It might force the international community to rethink some things.
This whole thing also throws a wrench into Dubai's image as a safe haven for the ultra-wealthy.
If a ruler can be accused of these things, it makes you wonder what else might be happening behind closed doors.
Right. It's a bit unsettling, to say the least. So where do we go from here? What are the long-term implications of this whole saga?
Well, that's the thing. It's a Pandora's box of questions with no easy answers. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, about abuse, about the limits of the law.
It's a story that's going to resonate for a long time, and it challenges us to think critically about the systems that allow these things to happen.
We have to be vigilant, ask questions, hold those in power accountable.
And we can't forget the role of investigative journalism and human rights groups. Without them, this might never have come to light.
Absolutely. They're the ones who shine a light on this story, who gave a voice to the victims.
It's inspiring, in a way, to see people fighting for what's right, even when it's dangerous.
They're the real heroes here. You know, one thing that struck me about Haya is her transformation.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, she went from this glamorous royal figure to a woman literally fleeing for her life, fighting for her freedom, for her children's safety.
It's a reminder that abuse can happen anywhere, even in the most privileged circles.
And that it's never too late to break free.
It must have taken incredible courage for her to leave everything behind.
I can't imagine what that was like, to make that decision.
But it gives hope to anyone else who might be in a similar situation.
It shows there's a way out, even if it seems impossible.
This whole deep dive has been a wild ride. We started with a fairy tale marriage and ended up in a world of intrigue, billion-dollar settlements, and allegations of kidnapping.
It's a story that's captivated the world. But it's also left us with a lot of unanswered questions.
Like, what happens to Haya and her children? What about Latifa? Will Dubai face any real consequences?
Those are the questions we have to keep asking. We can't let this story fade away.
The fight for justice isn't over. But before we wrap things up, I want to make sure our listeners understand just how big this case really is.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just gossip. It's about the abuse of power, the limits of international law, the struggle for human rights.
It's a wake-up call to the whole world.
Exactly. So what do you think will happen to Latifa? Will we ever see her free?
Honestly, I don't know. It's hard to be optimistic. But her story, it represents something bigger.
The fight for freedom, for justice.
And we can't forget all the other voices that are still silenced, the victims who don't have a platform to speak out.
We have to amplify their voices, demand justice, work towards a world where everyone is free from fear and oppression.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. This deep dive has been a journey, but an important one.
It's opened our eyes to a reality that's often hidden, the dark side of wealth and power.
And we hope it's inspired you to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, to stand up for what you believe in, because this isn't just about Dubai. It's about the kind of world we want to live in. It's easy to get lost in all the details, right? The money, the drama, the accusations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we can't forget that real people are at the heart of this story.
Right. Like Haya. She had to make this impossible choice. Leave her whole life behind, or risk her safety and the safety of her children.
It's a decision most of us can't even fathom. And then there's Latifa and Shamsa.
Their voices have been almost completely silenced.
It makes you think about the lasting impact of trauma, especially when it comes from your own family, and the fact that we still don't know for sure what happened to Latifa.
It's haunting. It really highlights how much power Sheikh Mohammed has. This whole case has honestly changed how I think about Dubai, about the Middle East.
Yeah, it challenges a lot of assumptions, doesn't it?
It does. Like, we see Dubai as this modern, glamorous place, but underneath, it seems like those traditional power structures are still very much in place.
It shows that progress isn't always a straight line.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes in other parts of the world.
It's a wake-up call, for sure. We can't just ignore what's happening elsewhere just because it's not on our doorstep. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to the same question. What happens now? What's next for Haya, for her children? For Latifa, what about Dubai?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? We don't have all the answers, but this case has shown us something important.
What's that?
It's shown that even the most powerful people can be held accountable. Justice can prevail, even when it seems impossible.
It's given us a peek behind the curtain of this world of wealth and power, and it's reminded us that the people with the most to lose are often the most vulnerable.
We have to remember this story, and we have to keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, keep fighting for a world where justice wins.
Well said. This deep dive has been a journey, but it's been an important one. We hope it's opened your eyes to a reality that's often hidden.
The darker side of wealth and power.
And we hope it's made you think, made you want to learn more, made you want to make a difference. Because in the end, this isn't just about Dubai, it's about all of us. It's about the kind of world we want to live in, a world where everyone has a voice, a world where justice prevails.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep fighting for what's right.